My fiance cheated on me with her ex, so I decided to sleep with the woman she despised the most for revenge. I work at a prominent financial institution in the US, and while I am not one to brag, I am doing quite well for myself at just 32 years old. About 6 years ago, I attended a conference where I struck up a conversation with a woman sitting next to me. We hit it off, and a few months later, we started dating. Fast forward to now, and she just turned 30 a few days ago. It's funny how things turned out. On her 29th birthday, I proposed, and she said yes without hesitation. Looking back, that was one of the happiest days of my life, and I am sure it was for her too. But that happiness soured quickly, like milk left out in the sun. I am not sure if anyone else has experienced this, but when you are with a woman who's too shy to discuss her past relationships with her friends, you often become the person she confides in. This happened to me in 2 different relationships, and this was one of them. Most guys don't want to hear about all the men their girlfriend, fiance, or wife has been with, and I am no different. After hearing about her most recent ex, Chris, who she had a toxic relationship with, I finally told her I didn't want to hear any more stories. She often mentioned how great he was in bed, which made me wonder if I measured up. I mean, was I as good as he was? It was a red flag, but she was younger and less experienced, so I brushed it off. In the early stages of our relationship, I heard a lot about Chris, but after a while the stories faded. I thought she had finally moved on, and that was good enough for me. Fast forward to the engagement phase, and my fiancé, whom I'll call Sarah, and I were deep into wedding planning. We both came from relatively well-off families, and while I wouldn't say I was wealthy, I was aware that my perspective might be a bit skewed. Both our parents wanted a grand wedding, but I was fine with a more intimate gathering. I didn't want distant relatives I hadn't seen in years crashing the party. However, Sarah and everyone else insisted on something spectacular, so I relented. This is where things took a turn for the worse. We were searching for a venue, and everyone wanted something picturesque, a private beach, a historic church, or a city hall. I made it clear that I was fine with a simple event space in the city, but I was told I lacked vision, so I let them handle the venue search. Sarah went to check out a few places with a friend, and I thought nothing of it. After a day of venue hunting, she told me about an old church that she really liked. She planned to check it out again with her friend to confirm her feelings. I didn't care much about the venue, so I agreed. Eventually, they decided on the church, and we put down a deposit to secure the date. Everything seemed to be going smoothly until one day, when Sarah left her phone on the kitchen counter while signing for a delivery. I noticed a notification from Chris pop up. I was tempted to snoop, but she returned quickly, and I didn't get the chance. I had no confirmation that it was the same Chris, but if there was another Chris calling her babe, that would be even worse. I kept my emotions in check, knowing how guys can be. He could be trying to rekindle something, and she might not be receptive, but I knew I had to wait for the right moment to dig deeper. That opportunity came about 10 days later when Sarah's friend picked her up to look at flower arrangements. She forgot her phone, and I seized the chance. I went straight to her messaging app and searched for Chris. They had been talking a lot, and the messages were filled with wedding talk. He mentioned the venue and how beautiful it was, suggesting they should visit again outside of wedding duties. So, he was the friend she went with. As I scrolled through their conversation, I found explicit messages and even pictures exchanged. It was clear they were still in contact, and she didn't seem to regret it. Just then, I heard the door unlock. I considered putting her phone down and acting innocent, but I decided to let her walk in on me holding her phone. When our eyes met, I saw her expression change. She rushed over, trying to play it off casually, but when she saw Chris's chat open, her demeanor shifted. I could see her struggling to find the right words. "You went through my phone? Really?" she asked. "Yes," I replied, trying to keep my cool. She attempted to make me the villain, but I just laughed it off. I told her, "Your ex sent a message while you were signing for the package the other day. I saw the notification, and that's what prompted me to check your phone. I had every reason to do this, so don't try to flip the script on me. If things had gone your way, I would have remained blissfully ignorant while you continued to cheat on me with Chris." She started mumbling excuses, claiming it wasn't what it looked like. I bluffed, saying, "I know you two slept together." She denied it immediately, but I stood my ground, insisting she stop lying. I pushed her phone toward her and said, "I can't marry a liar." That's when she broke down, crying and saying it was just a one-time mistake. I couldn't help but laugh again. "Just once? You've been sexting him and you are still in contact. It's only a mistake because I caught you." She tried to reach for me, but I swatted her away. It was amusing to me that she thought it was a mistake only because I found out. I stood up and went to the bedroom, grabbing her suitcase from the closet. When she saw me throwing her belongings into it, she wailed again, begging me to stop. "Give me the ring back," I demanded. The look on her face was priceless, like she had seen a ghost. It was at that moment she realized the gravity of her actions. My hand was outstretched for what felt like an eternity before she finally took off the ring and placed it in my palm. After shoving some of her things into the suitcase, I handed it to her and told her to leave. She did so silently. That night, I locked the door, turned off all the lights, and got drunk. The next morning, I woke up to several missed calls from her, some from her parents, and even a few from mine. I wondered if she had told them why I called off the wedding. I doubted it. I wasn't in the mood to talk to anyone. I didn't want to hear sympathy or suggestions that we could work things out. Throughout the day, people knocked on my door, but I stayed silent. It wasn't until the following day that I created a group chat with both sets of parents, Sarah and her siblings. I wrote a long message detailing everything that had happened, not caring that her parents were included. If they wanted to weigh in on the wedding plans, they needed to know the full story. After sending the message, the group chat was silent for an hour, even though I could see that several of them had read it, including my ex-fiance. The first response came from my dad, who said, "Son, I am sorry. You made the right choice. It'll hurt, but it was the right choice." That stuck with me. A weaker man might have gone back to her when the pain became too much, but I never even considered it. Every time I remembered that line, I felt more resolute. As the day went on, I received messages and calls some I replied to. Others I ignored. It was clear everyone had heard the news, and there was no point in discussing it further. To my knowledge, her parents never tried to plead with me, likely understanding that their daughter had messed up. But that wasn't enough for me. I needed to make Sarah feel the same pain I did. Calling off the engagement wasn't real pain for her. It was merely a consequence of her actions. I wanted to get back at Chris, but I didn't know how. I hoped Sarah would want nothing to do with him, considering he was the source of her embarrassment. The real target for my revenge was Sarah, and I had a plan. We weren't together anymore, so anyone I chose to sleep with was fair game. I wanted to ensure it hurt her deeply, so I considered sleeping with either the people she loved or the ones she hated. Given how our relationship had ended, her best friends would be difficult to navigate, but the people she despised would be a different story. I thought about how she would feel if I slept with someone she couldn't stand. It would make her hate that person even more and hurt her because she'd be sharing me with someone she loathed. I made a list of women she had complained about, starting with Sophia, who she thought was too full of herself. Then there was Melissa, a college classmate who had slept with one of Sarah's exes, leading to a huge falling out. Finally, I remembered Toki, a girl Sarah had said she hated because she acted cute and got attention from men. I managed to find Sophia easily, as we worked at the same company. I used LinkedIn to track her down and found her Instagram account. After following her, she quickly followed me back. I sent her a message, and it was clear she was interested. We chatted for a bit, and I asked her out on a date, which she happily accepted. During our date, I made sure to take plenty of photos with her, capturing the moments we shared. The chemistry was undeniable, and the night ended on a high note. Next up was Melissa. I reached out to her on Instagram, but to my surprise, she recognized me. She and Sarah hadn't kept in touch, but Melissa had been keeping tabs on Sarah's life. I decided to be honest and told her I had split with Sarah. To my relief, she responded positively, saying she hated Sarah. We ended up talking about my ex-fiance, and I casually mentioned that I wanted to get back at her. Melissa, being the homewrecker she was, suggested we sleep together. I couldn't believe my luck. I flew out to see her, and we had a great time bowling and exploring her city. The night ended with us having fun at her place, and I made sure to capture some suggestive photos for my revenge plan. Finally, I turned my attention to Toki. I found her on Tinder and matched with her right away. After a few slow exchanges, I managed to set up a date. It took a few meetings before anything happened, but I got my photos with her too. After about 6 weeks of planning and executing my revenge, I felt a mix of emotions. I wondered if I was going too far, but I knew I needed to do this to feel better. I texted Sarah out of the blue, and after a long wait, she replied. We exchanged some awkward pleasantries, and I suggested we meet up, not revealing my true intentions. When we met at the park, I could see the hope in her eyes. We went through some small talk before I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos. Her expression changed from curiosity to horror as she scrolled through the images of me with Sophia, Toki, and Melissa. She was visibly shaken, and I could see tears welling up in her eyes. I casually remarked that none of these women were as bad as she made them out to be, and in fact, they were all better than her in many ways. That's when she lost it, standing up and shouting expletives at me. I remained calm, reminding her that I wasn't the one who had cheated. I told her she could only be mad at herself for what had happened. Seeing her break down was oddly satisfying. I felt a sense of closure wash over me. Since that day, I haven't heard from her, not even on her 30th birthday, and honestly, I prefer it that way. As a parting note, I want to emphasize that no one is beyond cheating, even those you think are trustworthy. If you suspect something is off, don't hesitate to check their phone. It's better to know the truth than to live with trust issues. I managed to escape my situation, and I hope others can too. Your reaction to discovering your fiance's infidelity is both unexpected and oddly amusing. Most people would be devastated, but you seem to take it in stride, which is both hilarious and slightly unnerving. Your revenge plot is something else entirely, sleeping with not one, not two, but 3 women your ex despises. That's some next-level payback. What do you think of OP's revenge tactics? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for joining us today, and be sure to like and subscribe, hitting that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Until next time,